law. These are the key stories we have for you this evening. Details of it coming up in the next minute. Stay with us. This is Hot Edition. Right, so my name is Martin Asiedu. This is Hot Edition. Before we delve into the specific details, let's bring you the news summaries with Lord Eduasari.
Thank you, Martin. Let's get straight to it because it's been a busy news day, I should say, Martin. So the Asantehene Otunfo Osei Tutu has expressed dissatisfaction with the rising number of land disputes among various traditional councils under his jurisdiction. In a meeting on Thursday, he sought to find lasting solutions to the issue. Also, the government, through the Ministry of Energy and Green Transition, has plans to increase Ghana's renewable energy generation to 10% by 2030 and 50% by 2060. And then the governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Johnson Esiama, has said that the central bank continues to hold tight to its monetary policy stance despite the easing of measures to tame inflation. Explaining what accounted for the drop in inflation since the new administration took over, Dr. Esiama gave the credit to the tight monetary stance of the Bank of Ghana. And then there's a story of a 57-year-old man identified as Ejabedu, popularly known as Express, who has allegedly taken his own life at Onhiama Drain in the Shama district of the Western region after attacking his wife with a machete over a divorce threat. That's it for the summaries, Martin.
Thank you very much for those news summaries, Lord Eduasari. Now let's start from, of course, it's a position that Lord is very familiar with, that is the courts, because it looks like former Chief Justice is not letting her guard down at all and will not go down without a fight. The former Chief Justice, Gertrude Tokonu, has filed a legal challenge seeking to stop the vetting and appointment of Justice Bafo Boni as Ghana's next Chief Justice. The suit, filed at the High Court, is asking the court to nullify all actions taken by the Justice Gabriel Scott Poaman Committee, which investigated petitions that led to her removal from office. Justice Tokonu contends that the committee was unlawfully constituted and that its proceedings were unconstitutional. She is therefore asking the courts to declare its findings invalid and to set aside the presidential warrant that removed her from office, describing it as illegal and of no effect. Justice Tokonu has also was dismissed from office on the 1st of September 2025 by President Mahama, acting on the recommendations of a committee established under Article 146 of the Constitution. The committee, after consulting the Council of State, found her guilty of misconduct, including the misuse of public funds and breaches of constitutional provisions. Justice Bafo Boni, who has been acting as the Chief Justice since April 2025, was formally nominated by the President last month for the substantive position. His vetting by Parliament's Appointments Committee is expected to take place later next week when Parliament reconvenes. But this latest action could delay or complicate the process. Let's find out what exactly all of this means and why Madam Tokonu wants to go back to the court or has gone back to the court over a subject that many have thought that was over following some evidence put together by the committee which led to her dismissal. Joining us in studio now is Dennis Puaberi Wedam Esquire to go through some of the key issues being raised by the Chief Justice, the former Chief Justice, and the way forward. Dennis, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, Martin, for having me. Forgive me for dressing outfit.
Makes sense. Right. So, what's the latest with the current, the former Chief Justice, I should say? What exactly is she seeking that we have not already heard about?
Well, so this is yet another application before the High Court. This application has been filed on the 16th of October, that's yesterday, and it's in respect of matters that have to do with the proceedings that was chaired by Justice Poaman in respect of Article 146 proceedings which led to her removal. Recall that she appeared before that committee in respect of some petitions that were presented. It's been a long haul, but I've got to a point where she was removed, but it doesn't appear that the matters have settled yet. She is asserting a right that the proceedings that were conducted before that particular committee be set aside or be quashed completely, and that all the 3 reasons that the committee advanced based on which she was removed, including their recommendations, also be quashed. She also goes on asking the court to also quash that presidential warrant which removed her from office. So we are looking at 1, quashing the proceedings, including their recommendations. All the 3 reasons that the committee gave for her removal, we'll look at those 3 reasons later. She also wants that presidential warrant to be quashed. She also wants that there should be an order which will prohibit the consideration and appointment of a substantive Chief Justice. And like you did indicate in the beginning, we all know that the processes are ongoing. Justice Paul Bafoboni, who was the acting Chief Justice, has been nominated. He's expected to undergo vetting and subsequently be appointed. So what the former Chief Justice is seeking to do with this suit is to say that that process should be stopped. She also wants that an order be made to prevent any withdrawal of her pay and benefits and all the privileges that were due her before the 15th day of September. That was on the day that this warrant of removal from office was dated. So in essence, she's seeking 5 substantive reliefs from the court. 1, to quash the proceedings of the Justice Poorman Committee. 2, to quash the reasons that the Justice Poorman Committee gave. 3, to quash that presidential warrant. 4, to prohibit the consideration and appointment of answering her arguments have also been clearly spelled out. And those grounds largely revolve around the reasons that the committee gave for her removal. And if you indulge me, the committee gave 3 reasons, and that's why she says that all the 3 reasons should be quashed. Those 3 reasons have to do with travel expenses of herself, which in the view of the committee constituted misbehavior.
Misconduct.
Yes, misconduct, misbehavior. Because in the committee's own words, at some point they use misbehavior. There's also the second reason, which has to do with the transfer of a judicial officer by name Mr. Francis Baden. Then there's a third reason, which has to do with recommendation of judges for consideration for elevation to the Supreme Court. Now, these are the reasons that the committee gave. She's of the view that 1, the first reason, which has to do with the expenses, that it does not meet that constitutional threshold for stated misconduct, incompetence, or infirmity of mind, because those are the only reasons on which a Supreme Court judge or a Superior Court judge, and to that by extension, a Chief Justice can be removed. She specifically says that the first finding, which had to do with the expenses, that it is false, that it is misleading, that it is irrational, and that it is illegal. Her reason is that that expenditure was neither disallowed nor surcharged by the Auditor General, who audited the expenses of the judiciary. She also goes on to say that that same reason, that's the first reason, is unreasonable and that it is unfair. And her reason for saying that is because the committee attributes that expenditure to the Chief Justice, but that she did not authorize or administer that expenditure. For to that extent, it is unreasonable and unfair. She also argues that it's an abuse of office or power. And the reason she says so is that that expenditure was in accordance with established travel policy. Now, what does she say about the second reason that the committee gave? Again, she says that that reason of the transfer of the judicial officer, as cited by the committee, is an abuse of power and unconstitutional, and that it is the Chief Justice's legitimate role under Article 1254 of the Constitution. And that as to how that constitutes a judicial misconduct, she cannot agree with that. The third one, which has to do with the recommendations for appointment of some judges, she says that the committee's finding it's unlawful, and that it is the role of the Chief Justice, together with the Judicial Council, as was pronounced in the case of the Ghana Bar Association and Attorney General, to make such recommendations. And to that extent, she believed that she was well in order when she made those recommendations. So essentially, her arguments are to the effect that all the recommendations that the committee made, which led to her removal, were unconstitutional, they were unfair, they were irrational, they were illogical, and all the other things that you can't think of.
Inspiring the court to declare them null and void and of no effect.
Exactly.
Okay.
So in essence, she's saying all that the committee did should be reversed or should be taken away as if nothing has happened.
Okay. Dennis, thank you so much for walking us through and giving us a bit of history as how far we have come regarding Chief Justice Gertrude Torkornoo-Formah and her latest relief she's seeking from the court. Let's now go to the phone lines now and engage Kweku Ansa Asare, who himself has been one of the key voices that has been, amongst other things, educating Ghanaians or those who are interested in this subject what exactly the law has been saying or says when it comes to removal of a Chief Justice, and the fact that he says that it is within Mrs. Torkornoo's right to appeal and go over as long as she's exercising what the law allows her to do. There shouldn't be any qualms about it. Mr. Kweku Ansah, good evening and thank you for joining us on 3FM 92.7.
Thank you and good evening.
What are your immediate thoughts on the latest move by Mrs. Torkornoo, where she's asking the courts, amongst other things, to declare the findings that were made up against her as null and void, and then to the extent that there shouldn't even be the vetting of another Chief Justice who currently has been the acting Chief Justice. There should not be a vetting because she believes that she has been unfairly or unlawfully treated.
My immediate reaction is that it is an attempt to clutch at straws to revive a dead case. And the latest book is yet another example of abuse when judicial put it in plain language. It is a mere attempt to revive what I will describe as a disembodied spirit of a dead case. The case died the very day President John Dramani Mahama accepted the recommendation of the court former 5-member committee, removed her both as Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana, and even though I disagree, with the removal also as a justice of the Supreme Court, I don't call the shots. The person who called the shots removed, we're only trying to appeal, for that to be committed into a retirement, so at least you can go, with some persuades, to keep body and soul together. But her latest move is rather irritating, annoying, and depicts her as a person who was not suitably qualified, to hold a high office of Chief Justice. First of all, the office of Chief Justice is not the personal property of any person the president would nominate. And that being the case, it shouldn't be likened to a traditional stool. It can become the queen mother of the office of the Chief Justice and then, claim ownership of the PJ's stool. There's no such stool in the Constitution. Thirdly, what she is doing is devoid of legality. It has no support in the Constitution. The Constitution has spoken. The committee has completed its work. The president has accepted the recommendation of the committee. The president has acted in accordance with the Constitution. Cannot sue any member of the committee because they have immunity. He cannot sue the president because the president has immunity. He cannot do anything because the Constitution doesn't give any such right. None of the... And let me make this clear. all the three courts constituting the superior court of judicature, that is the High Court, the Court of Appeal, the Supreme Court, and if I may add, the Tribunal, they are all creatures of the statute and can only do what the Constitution has created for them to do. Now, if a litigant goes to court, in the High Court, the Regional Tribunal, the Court of Appeal, the Supreme Court, and that litigant has no right created by the Constitution, there will be no corresponding remedy under the Constitution for such a litigant. And this, the PJ for 3 years or so, I'm surprised that the former Chief Justice will try to clutch at every straw to revive moribund case. This case died, was buried. At least she should allow the disembodied spirit of her case to rest in peace. Otherwise, it will turn in this day, and one day, like Osaman Chen return to haunt her. So that is what my advice was. Now, I hear some lawyers arguing that the High Court has jurisdiction to entertain the application. The High Court is a creature of the Constitution. If the Constitution hasn't given the High Court any such jurisdiction, where is the High Court going to create its own imaginary jurisdiction to hear such a case? Again, it is dead and buried. Now, it seems to me that the former TD is trying to create ugly noises, in order to hold on, to something that doesn't exist. If it is non-existent, it cannot be revived. And therefore, the day the case died, with the acceptance recommendation of the former committee recommendation by the president, he should have realized that he had come to the end of the road. I'm afraid that he is lending credence to my observation that former President Nanado appointed a baby to fill the vacancy that had occurred. I think in what he's doing now seems to me to suggest that he himself doesn't understand the legal terrain, let alone the judicial terrain. So no ugly noise can devise the case. Totally, it is unwarranted. It is alien to our jurisprudence.
Mr. Asasari,
to argue, and you have argued, you cannot re-argue as it were. This is what he tries to do. It's too late.
Okay, and from where you said, and having followed right from the onset when this issue came up, do you think that so there are other parts of her petition where, for instance, she's asking that all her emolument and salary and etc. that have not been paid her be paid. How about that component of her case that seems as though right from when she was dismissed, she has not had any payment at all?
You see, this one is to be achieved by another route to temper the harshness. Just appeal to the good sense of the president that please, well, I accept my removal, but it seems to be unjust to remove me also as a justice of the Supreme Court, because once I'm removed as a justice of the Supreme Court, I forfeit all my hard-earned settlements, and therefore I'll go home persuaded. So, Mr. President, reconsider that bit, and maybe as father of the nation, do something about it. retire me as a justice of the Supreme Court and let me receive my retiring award. This will be a common sense approach, which will have the sympathy of the entire nation, and it could be that way. But what he's doing now, is creating, she's becoming an irritant to everybody. Let Ghana have peace, please. The former chief judge understand the law. The position is not a personal property. You cannot put it into your handbag, ladies' bag, and take it home and prevent for Bafuboni, from being vetted to replace you.
So from where you said all these reliefs she's seeking do not carry weight.
Nothing. The law does not, support it. That's why I say that it has no support. Law, so it has no legal leg, stand upon.
Okay.
It's too late.
Right.
He has argued the case. He was there. He presented everything. It was considered. The president looked at it. The president, might have taken too simply, but he has acted. It's a presidential decision. The president has no option than to act in accordance with the constitution, which he did, and it's a decision that cannot be impugned or attacked. There is nowhere in the constitution that anyone can attack the president's decision, first one to Article 146.
Okay.
And there's nowhere in the constitution that prevents the president from nominating a chief justice. Nowhere in the constitution, that the speaker cannot summon parliament for the sole purpose of vetting a nominee a president to fill the vacancy that has, as a result of the targeting of the former chief justice.
Mr. Asiedu, finally, and for purposes of education, we know that justices of the Superior Court retire on their current salaries, as we are told. Is that true? And if so, considering the peculiar situation Mrs. Tokonu finds herself in, where she was actually dismissed and not retired, should she still be entitled to the salary she was taking or all benefits that she was getting?
Once the president removed as a justice of the Supreme Court, that remover, whatever retiring benefits that she was entitled to, that in itself is hard. To me, it is hard. But you see, hard cases do not make bad law. Hard cases do not make bad law. This is an elementary and familiar principle of law that every first-year law student knows, including the former Chief Justice herself, who was once a first-year law student. So she has known since she embarked upon this legal journey that if the law says you should fulfill something, it is a duty the law has cast on the president, to exercise. The president has exercised it. I think the presidency is not the way to go.
Okay.
This one, rather, seeks to require the intervention of, people with cool and level-headedness who can approach the presidency and dialogue with the president over this matter, so that there will be some tempering of it. By the way, I don't think she's being giving wise counsel. I'm afraid that she has come to the roof.
Okay.
She must accept it.
Thank you.
You have to do it.
Right.
You see, if there's any Christianity in there, to go down on her knees, pray to a good Lord for the intervention in this matter, rather than trying to clutch at every straw she can find. One day she will look for a stake, to beat the president.
Okay.
And realize that beating more than
she can chew. Thank you so much for speaking to us this evening, and it's always a pleasure hearing your thoughts on these issues. We've been speaking to the founder and legal educationist with Mount Crest University College, Kweku Ansah Asare, himself an astute lawyer. So what do you make of this particular development where the current, the immediate past Chief Justice, Madam Gertrude Tokonu, says that the court must reverse the decision that led to her dismissal and is asking that her emolument and all that entitlement she has to receive as a result of the termination of her appointment be given her immediately, because she believes that since her dismissal, that was in September, she has not been paid, and it is becoming quite concerning. What do you make of this development? We'll be happy to hear your thoughts on our Facebook page where we are streaming this bulletin, and also on YouTube. So do log on, just look for 3FM 92.7, and you can be a part of the national conversation. This is still a hot edition, and we are moving on to some other stories, staying in the courts though, because it's been a very busy court day today. And a lawyer for Kwabena Edubuahin, the former National Signals Bureau director, has described the third accused person as having double standards after she agreed to be a prosecution witness. The High Court discharged Mildred Donko after the prosecution dropped charges against her as the third accused in the Kwabena Edubuahin trial. Here's Samuel Atacha speaking after court proceedings earlier today.
A man has been deprived of what they call in law the workforce of his welfare, exculpatory evidence, that what will aid him to put together a credible defense. The judge said, I won't give it to you, but nevertheless, I'll proceed with the case. That to say, I will deny you what you use to defeat the prosecution's case. For me, it's an aberration of justice, and this is what we'll pursue. We'll pursue it very, very strong. For the first time, I'm hearing that somebody has been withdrawn as an accused person, the third accused, and is being made a witness. And he files it off as of right. But the law says you should have the consent of the judge to do so. Now, I could tell you that it is one of the interesting developments and dramatic moments in this whole thing, because an accused person, I do not know the concentration, has become a prosecution witness. So you could see that the Attorney General is in an indecent haste to rehabilitate the case. Because as a matter of fact, the Attorney General has published to the whole world that the third accused is into money laundering activities with the first and second accused. So what has changed? And guess who signed it? The Attorney General signed this before the court. And the charge sheet says so. So right now, what has changed for the Attorney General to have, if you like, a heel somersault and say that right now, the one that have accused us being involved in money laundering to come and testify against the people.
It was charged.
It was charged with. So it's too early to talk about it, but for me, it leaves much to be desired. What informed the lady that today I'm bold to accept what the Attorney General is saying and become a prosecution witness? These are matters that we're prying to. And it's very, very critical.
And Counsel, is there an inkling of regret seeing that Mildred used to be your client and then she, for want of a better word, switched posts, and then this is the result?
I don't have any regret at all, because for my training, I do not see how I should coach anybody to come and lie. So God has been on my side. Now in my backyard, I never knew that there's a lady who was capable of double standards. I never believed that somebody would say that, oh, my mouth is in another man's kitchen. But today, for the sake of my freedom, I'm going to betray that person. But what is he going to betray us with? That's the whole point of the matter. What does he know? That if he should come into the public space, the case will go against us. We are not scared about it. But you see, the obvious lofty prostitution is what should worry the Attorney General. The Attorney General is comfortable with a woman who will speak with two mouths. We'll see how she will fare under cross-examination.
And that is the voice of Atachia, who is lawyer for Kwabena Edubuahin. And if you've been following the story, there were 3 key individuals who were being charged on this particular case of the issues of theft that has been leveled against Kwabena Edubuahin, his wife, and Mildred Donko, who is the 3rd accused person. Now, the latest is that Mildred Donko has agreed to be a prosecution witness, and because of that, the state has decided to drop the charges that were leveled against her. So she's going to be testifying for the state against Kwabena Edubuahin and his wife. So Atachi has been speaking and says he actually is questioning Madam Mildred Donko, who has been speaking with 2 mouths. That's what he said, and said we'll see how she fares under cross-examination, which means when the case gets back to court and she's called as a witness to testify, it's going to be quite a sight to behold. We'll keep you posted as and when we do get more on this. Staying on legal matters though, lawyers for former director of the National Service Authority, Osei Sibe Entry, has told the Accra High Court that his client has not been served with a charge sheet against him. Parkwesi Kubuaji also indicated that they were not given the hearing notice for the case early, hence the failure of the former NSA boss to show up in court. He explained that Osei Sibe Entry reports to investigators in Kumasi every Monday, apart from the first Monday of the month when he comes to the NIB office in Accra. Presiding Judge Kizita Na Kowo Kwashi then ordered the prosecution, led by the Director of Public Prosecution, Yvonne Atakra Abuobisa, to ensure they are served with the charges and a hearing notice. Meanwhile, Madam Atakra Abuobisa also indicated that in the matter of the former Deputy Director of the National Service Authority, Gifty Owari, a 2-day medical excuse duty has been sent, hence she would not be coming to court. So we'll update you on how all of that plays out in the coming days, and also get some legal perspectives on how this will be coming up in court. This is still 3FM 92.7. We are live around the world on 3news.com. That's our website, and we also streaming on Facebook. Just look for 3FM 92.7, and your messages and thoughts can be shared there, and we'll be happy to read it. Away from legal matters, let's turn our attention to energy, because the Ministry of Energy and Green Transition says it has successfully accounted for more than 2,600 missing Electricity Company of Ghana containers at the country's ports. According to the ministry, 1,500 of these containers have already been cleared and moved out of the port. Energy Minister John Jenapo revealed that documents related to the missing containers have been forwarded to the Attorney General's office, saying persons found culpable will face the law. Let's listen to exactly what he's been saying.
And I encourage management, never should we go that path. Never. We shouldn't have been there. I mean, if it was your company and you were the shareholder and you invested money in it, and your management came to tell you that they've awarded contracts about 9 billion when the board approved contracts for just about 3 billion. And you can check from the records. You are given a threshold at the board of 3 billion, and you end up spending about 9 billion. And it's not as if you spend 9 billion. You've given contracts so much so that the containers, when they get to the port, you don't even have money to clear the containers. So 1, you are incurring cost of 9 billion. 2, you are not using the items because they are stuck at the ports. 3, you are paying demurrage for the containers stuck at the ports. So as minister, I have to work extra hard with the other stakeholders. And I want to thank the Gapoha staff, the chief executive, and to thank the national security coordinator, the minister, and thank the chief of staff of Madam Valerie Soya and Co. for helping us to move those containers. It's been a very, very difficult task. And like I said, we should never go that path again. And as minister, I will not tolerate that. It happened in the past. it must not happen today. We've ordered the full document to the Attorney General. He's studying it. And if people are found culpable, I'm very confident that the law will take its course. We are not victimizing anybody. We are doing what is right and what is proper. The taxpayers' money must be accounted for. Nobody would allow this in his or her company. But you know, sometimes people think government is you, government is.
Right, so that's the voice of John Jinapor, who is the Minister for Energy and Green Transition. And he's also been given an update on what has been happening in the energy sector, because he disclosed that Ghana could save over $840 million if it reduces its reliance on independent power producers and instead invest in additional power plants for the Volta River Authority to operate. He noted that such a move could help lower utility tariffs for consumers. Currently, Ghana pays ENI $70 million each month for gas supply. Let's listen to what the minister said, and then we can subject all these thoughts to some further analysis.
And he said that, look, the tariffs we are charging today, let's escrow those amounts into an account. We're talking about 70 million every month, US dollars. That is on the back of the envelope, 700, 140, $840 million every year, not cedis, times the number of years the IPPs have been operating. Don't you think that if we had escrowed this money, we would have built more thermal plants at VRA and sell the power at a cheaper price? And the reality is that sometimes we all pretend. So when we have VRA, we say that don't charge tariffs. Because it's VRA. So we pretend. But when it's IPPs, we are compelled to charge the tariffs. We are compelled to collect the money. So why can't we do the same with VRA? And even charge half of what we are charging? And we'll still make it. The other thing is how we even do our energy architecture. When Ameri was brought in, there was a lot of criticism. Fair. I mean, that is democratic. We can't all be perfect and we'll continue to learn. But after 5-6 years, America has become the property of VRA. If we had done the same with the other plants, what it means is that every year or every 2 years, a plant will be transferred to VRA. A plant will be transferred to VRA. And before no time, we'll build the capacity of VRA. So I've told Chief that let's see how VRA on its own, with government support, can procure more thermal plants, even with the private sector. So the VRA is the lead agency. VRA holds a majority share, and you can do a PPP with the private sector. So that after some years, when you pay them off, you keep the plant for yourselves.
Right, so Energy and Green Transition Minister John Jinapor there. Let's go to the phone lines now and speak to Richmond Roxon, Head of Communications at the Energy Ministry. He's joined us for a quick chat. Mr. Roxon, good evening. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, Martin, and thank you for the opportunity.
It was a big national conversation when the minister first said that almost 3,000 or so containers had gone missing. Later, many came up to say that it probably it's just a misplacement of those containers and not necessarily disappearance into thin air. Today, the minister is updating the nation more or less about the whereabouts of these containers, where he says 2,600 of the missing containers have been found. Some have been moved to the right places they need to be. How did he come about this number?
Thank you for the opportunity once again. And then let me say good evening to your cherished listeners. During the transition period, the transition team was given an update that ECG had about 2,490 containers at the port. Upon assumption in office, the Honorable Minister went to the port, and what he saw, he didn't think that there was, in fact, you had that number of containers as alleged. So he set up a committee for the committee to investigate. The committee's report was clear that they couldn't locate over 1,300 of these containers. And so, as alarming as that news was, the government set up a committee together with the Chief of Staff, the Customs. You also had Ministry of Energy representative, you had National Security, you had Tema Ports, and other relevant official, Ministry of Transport, to be able to investigate. The committee, shockingly, traced over 2,600 containers, which was even far above the initial reports that the minister had that these containers were not unaccounted for. Subsequently, what has happened is that the Chief of Staff has directed that the containers that have been traced be moved to ECG's warehouses. Unfortunately, because of the number, we've had to put them in various warehouses or terminals across the country, and so that material that are needed can be used. Unfortunately, the inventory is so far what has been done. If you look at the documentation, most of them, the goods that were procured, were not even material goods that ECG needed. Most of them were cables, and it brings to bear procurement practices under the previous management. And so, fortunately, some of these containers have been evacuated. Over 1,300 have been moved. We still have some of the containers outstanding to be cleared and moved. And so that's the update. It hasn't ended there. The matter is still under investigation. It's with the security services. A report has been sent to the Office of Attorney General for review and advice, because the government holds the view that definitely people should be held liable, people should be culpable. I mean, you cannot, if this was your business, I'm not sure that you'd be smiling if someone tells you that he has imported goods, the goods are sitting at the port. One, you are incurring costs. Number two, there were no material goods you needed. And number three, you cannot even use the goods. And then you are still spending money paying the demurrage. And so the honest belief of the ministry is that people must be held liable for that. And so that's where we are with the country.
Right. And briefly for me, what specific administrative actions are expected now that the documents have been sent to the Office of the Attorney General? What should we expect?
Oh, well, I mean, once it's with the Office of the Attorney General, it's not an administrative matter again within the ambit of the ministry. What the ministry has done is to ensure that every single container is traced. The process is still ongoing. And so even when it comes to containers, I always say that because of the initial report on what was found, there's a possibility that you might still procure some. Interestingly, the last time the ECGM did disclose that there are people who are still bringing in goods consigned to ECG. And that is what led to a review as well by ECG of some of the contracts, which has led to the abrogation of over 200 contracts, and which is worth around $300 million. And so it's a comprehensive exercise, and we will follow in the Office of the Attorney General and Minister of Justice for advice on the way forward.
Thank you, Richmond Roxon, for your time this evening. It's always a pleasure talking to you. We'll definitely come back to you subsequently. So you're listening to 3FM 92.7. This is still Hot Edition. Time now for business, and Bismarck Eusa has joined us in studio. Hello, Bismarck.
Hello, good evening. Time now for the business segment on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Coming up tonight, Bank of Ghana Governor Dr. Johnson Isiama clarifies recent forex market interventions, says commercial banks now drive trade as markets regain stability. I am Bismarck Eusa. This story and others lined up for you. Please stay. Thanks for your company. Now to the details. Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Johnson Isiama, says Ghana's foreign exchange market has regained its footing, with commercial banks now taking charge of trading activities instead of the central bank. Speaking in an interview during the ongoing IMF World Bank spring meetings in Washington, D.C., Dr. Asiamah explained that recent interventions by the Bank of Ghana were only temporary measures to cushion the market during a period of heavy outflows and large payments. He revealed that the central bank had to meet significant financial obligations between July and August, including arrears owed to independent power producers and payments to bondholders who exited their investments following the cedi's appreciation.
What we have now is to intermediate what comes from the gold board, and then the rest is taken into our reserves. To give you an example, as at yesterday, we had committed to make available $150 million US. This morning, when I checked, the market had picked up only $90 million. So $60 million automatically goes into our reserves. Same thing, Tuesday, we made available $150 million. The market's picked up less than half of that. So automatically, it goes into our reserves. So we do not over-support the markets at all. All we seek to do is to limit the volatilities in the markets to ensure that we have that smooth, dynamics in the market.
And that was Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Johnson Asiamah, clarifying the recent forex market interventions. Now, President of the Insurance Brokers Association of Ghana, Shaibu Ali, has welcomed the Bank of Ghana's call for commercial banks to use local insurance companies for import coverage, describing it as a move that will strengthen domestic liquidity and reduce foreign exchange leakages. Speaking in an interview where he outlined key compulsory insurance products under Ghanaian law, Mr. Ali said the central bank's directive aligns with ongoing efforts to deepen compliance and ensure that businesses operate within the country's regulatory framework.
So far as compulsory insurances are concerned, we have the age-old marine insurance, which is compulsory once you are importing goods into Ghana. If those goods are not personal effects, then you are obliged to insure the goods in Ghana. You are not supposed to insure the goods abroad. It means that whatever that you are insuring must be on C&F basis, not CIF basis. The insurance must be taken out locally. Now with Act 1061, they're saying that public liability has become compulsory for any property which has unfettered access to the general public. If I can walk into a building to do whatever I have to do, buy something or go and see someone, it means that that place is a public place and there must be a public liability policy so that when there's an incident, the people who will be injured or dead will be compensated for. We have the compulsory fire, which any building that the public can easily walk into, there must be a compulsory fire in it that would cover collapse so that if something happens, the people who will suffer whatever injury or damage would also be compensated for.
And that was President of the Insurance Brokers Association of Ghana, Shaibu Ali, bringing us to the end of the business segment on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7 with me, Bismarck Ausa. For more business stories, please check out our website, 3news.com.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the sports segment here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7 with me, Andrew Sefa Bamfo. Let's start off from the Ghana Premier League, where a lot of games are expected to take place this weekend, but much of the attention will be centered in Berekum, where Hearts of Oak, who are on a 10-game unbeaten run, lock horns with Berekum Chelsea.
the Phobians have had a relatively slow start to the season, winning 2 games and drawing 3 times. However, ahead of Hearts of Oak's tie with Berekum Chelsea on Sunday, Hearts of Oak head coach Didi Dramani says his side will look to maximize their strength.
I think that the most important thing is to consolidate the gains. That is the strengths of the team, and also to try to weather the aspects of challenges, and also try to review the learning parts of the various aspects that we see in our previous games. And so a lot has been more on decision making on the offensive phase 2 through to phase 3 and then through to phase 4, and also try to consolidate our solidity in terms of our compact team play, in terms of our defensive work.
And so that was Hearts of Oak head coach Didi Dramani speaking there. Away from Didi Dramani and the Ghana Premier League, let's head to Europe, specifically England, because there's a huge clash this weekend in the Premier League. Long-time rivals Manchester United and Liverpool will do battle at Anfield on Sunday as the Reds look to bounce back to winning ways after 2 successive defeats, while United are also seeking consecutive Premier League wins under Ruben Amorim for the first time. Ahead of the clash, Liverpool boss Ancelotti has admitted that his side have easily given away goals this season.
But we've conceded too many goals. That's for sure. And we've conceded 9, where 4 of them are from set pieces. That is what was and still is, by the way, a strength of us, which sounds weird if you concede 4, but that's not a reflection of the chances we've conceded in terms of set pieces. So the other 5 were 2 fast breaks and 3 from open play. I think in open play, we are conceding too many crosses, so that is one of the things where we have to address and what we have to do better.
And so that was Liverpool boss Ancelotti speaking there. Meanwhile, his opposite number, Ruben Amorim, says he believes Manchester United are capable of beating any team.
Don't know. Sometimes things change really fast, but if you see the history of both clubs, you can feel it that sometimes you have one club that is winning, the other club is having a bad moment. That happened with Liverpool when Manchester United was winning everything, and that happened with Manchester United when Liverpool was winning everything. So we just have to acknowledge that, to be really honest with the fans. But we can win any game. So if we think about just winning the next game, that is the most important thing. We can win.
And so that was Manchester United head coach Ruben